Well, hell, sunshine. What we're doing today, or what we did today, we did a couple more mods today. We put it in the wood. We sawed about a tank of firewood. We put it on dyno. Done a timing advance. I'll show you how I did that. We're still at 12, so I'm gonna change this. I'm gonna run this in till I'm at 16. We did a carburetor mod. I don't think anyone's ever done a carburetor mod like this one before. I don't really want another carburetor. I just want a different choke flap. So we done that. I'm gonna show you that. So there's quite a few things happening in this saw, but I think this saw is ready to go to my dad's to cut firewood on. Now, I'm not saying this saw won't hit the dyno again because it's not broke in yet and there's a brand new cylinder on it. That video should have already been out. So there's a brand new cylinder on it, not broke in yet. So we're just barely, and matter of fact, not quite up to the old dyno numbers, but she's time to put her in the wood and put it to firewood use. We've been chewing on this bone long enough. So guys, without further ado, let's get into it. Stihl 26, aftermarket cylinder, brand new cylinder, not broke in yet. Iron horse pipe, about 3.5, 4 degrees time in advance. 20-inch bar, 18-inch chain, hand filed. Never had dogs on it before, couldn't do that. Okay, we're getting ready to time this engine again so we can put some timing advance in it. I've got a timing calculator I've showed you guys before. I think I put that in one of the haymaking videos. I think it was in that, if you want to look for it, it was in one with the Matador hay inverter. We had a little bit of fun this summer. We was kind of hiding some hay talk in amongst the, or chainsaw talk in amongst the haying videos. We had a lot of fun doing it. I had some things I wanted to share with people that's with me all the time, I guess, would be the easiest way to put it. 46 and 46. I just timed it a second ago. I didn't turn the camera on and wanted to make sure it was right. And I wanted to show you guys something I tend to do here too, especially on a Stihl. I don't think it'll work on a Husqvarna because the cylinders I've seen don't have fins on top like this. But I'll take an old combination square, clamp it on that fin, and it's pretty rigid. And unlike a wire, it don't move around on me as much. And if you look down the side of this, you got two points of focus, kind of like front sight and rear sight. When you get them lined up, and then whatever timing they're pointing at, it won't lie to you. Now I got my camera sitting back here so I can kind of show you what I'm doing. Now, I've got a 10x1 millimeter bolt right here. Works pretty good. I can run down in this cylinder. Also, I'll use that in there for timing when I'm getting real critical. That allows me to time this. It's long enough to reach the, and also be a piston stop, and that's what I'm gonna use it for right now. Well, that's what it always is. piston stop that's a lot better than the regular piston stops, in that it goes in there at a different angle. It's not quite as long. With my short piston stop, usually I'm timing this cylinder at about 45 degrees before and after top dead center. That's where the normal type piston stop works, even the short one. My long one's, of course, worse than that. Now I can adjust this real fine, and I'm stopping the piston. Oh, we gotta get us some spectacles on. I'm stopping the piston right now at 12.5 degrees, and just there, 12 degrees. We just changed it a half. So we changed that at 12 degrees, or we set that at 12 degrees after top dead center. Now I can hold a little bit of pressure here. Now you don't want to mash down on this, but I can come right up here, and when I hit this, I'm at 12 degrees. Now I can make my mark on my flywheel that I want to do. Better put my spectacles back on. So this flywheel needs to go forward, which would be counterclockwise looking at it from this side. That flywheel needs to go forward 3 degrees. And what I can do is, we're at 12 degrees here, I can loosen this flywheel up, and I'll take the deal off, and I can adjust this down to where I can run that stop back up to, I'll run this counterclockwise. If I want to put in 4 degrees, I'll put 4 degrees on 12, so I'll set this at 16 degrees and line that mark up that I just made. That mark's on there that I just made. So that's how I'm going to put timing advance in. I'm not going to grind the key. Now I'll caution you, when you're running this stop in there, and I don't want to move that right now, right, because I got this set, you want to roll that piston way away from that when you go to hammering and taking whatnots loose. There's what I was looking for. You go taking your flywheel loose, you don't want to be cranking in on that. And I'm going to tell you another thing here before I forget. When you go to tightening this up, a lot of times I'll hold that over here on this clutch side. That will move that timing wheel just a little bit. So you got to be cautious of that too. So I always have to retime the timing wheel after I get done doing this. And the timing wheel's already moved on here, so you gotta be cautious of that. And we did not change this. I know where that's pointing at. I know where that slot's pointing at in that screw, so the fact that we retimed that and put that to 12, we know that's still at 12. And we're gonna hunt, I didn't put a very big line on, there it is. We're gonna hunt this little blue line right here that I put on there and line that up. And put the nut on there if I can get my old fat cabbage collectors in there. Now we're going to have to change this a little bit. Remember, we was at 12, and we're still at 12. So I'm going to change this. I'm going to run this in till I'm at 16. And if we got to go back and retime it later, we will. We're at 16, 15 and a half. Better put my spectacles back on. 16 and a half. Good thing I put my glasses on. Width's at 12, so we're gonna put her about 15.5 and see what we like. Now I get to rotate that forward till them lines are lined up, and we should be 15.5 degrees. So we should be 3.5 degrees timed up more. So I'll rotate this back. We're at 15.5. I'll rotate this back and tighten this up. Okay, we got us a little time in advance in it, about 4 degrees, 3.5, 4 degrees. Now, like I've probably mentioned 100 times, this saw I intend for my dad to run. He's 70, 78. It's got to start good. It's got to start easy. Got to start every time. Got to start on idle, got to start on full throttle. So far, my turn to talk. So far, I think the time in advance that's in it, we'll have to get her on dyno. We'll have to get her on dyno and see what the time in advance is going to do for it. If it ain't no good, we'll take it out. It seems snappier. Don't know, may not be. Seems snappier by a little bit. So let's get her on dyno, and then we'll move on to the next mod for today. Stihl 026, time in advance. This red oak fell on my fuel tank. I'll get a log out that 8 foot. I'll need to buck her off about right there, I think. Nope, turn it on. My pappy said, son, you're going to drive me to drugs if you don't quit forcing the chainsaw jugs. Have you heard the story of the work saw race where Iron Horse and Tin Man were setting the pace? That story's true. I know the deal because I was running a hot rod Stihl. It's got a clamshell motor and it's really souped up. That cracked top cover makes it look like a pup. It's got a 20-inch barn. It uses it all with 30,000 acres. It just won't stall. It's got a ported intake and Iron Horse exhaust with an 810 sprocket. You can really get lost. It goes through white oak just like it's pine. The crank is good and the piston's fine. Walked out to the woods one cool day. It was easy to see winters headed this way. I was barred in deep, laying on the dogs, loving my saws, bucking some logs. All of a sudden, out of the corner of my eye, a logger with a husky passed me by. I said, "Look out, boys, that's a saw for me." By then, sawdust was all you could see. Now the fellas all know I run my saws a little fat, but I couldn't let a husky get away with that. Pulled out my screwdriver and without a doubt, I turned the high jet and I leaned her out. Wound it up to 15.6, going through logs just like they're sticks. The saw was pulling hard and on the pipe for sure. That's all they is. They ain't no more. Boys all thought I was crazy as hell. Sawdust looked like a rooster's tail. They said, "Slow down, your crank's gonna bust. The chainsaw noodle's not just dust." Smoke was coming from under the cover when I started to catch that Husky lever. I knew I could outcut him and his Husky coil, but what did you know, by then my chain get dull. I had real fine dust coming out of the side. The bar was turning blue. Man, what a ride. I said, look out, boys, this baby will cut. He loaded up his Husky and got back in his truck. Now all of a sudden my stall started shaking. I didn't chamfer enough, the nickel seal was flaking. I looked at the ground, my bar oil was leaking. I'd give that carb too much tweaking. I stripped this all down and put it on the bench, called my pappy to bring me a wrench. He said, son, you're gonna drive me to drugs if you don't quit porting them chainsaw jugs. Well, we're getting down to the short hairs on the old 26, so we've had this carburetor mod in the works for quite a while, guys, to be honest about it. I hate these. Hate's a bad word, isn't it? Yeah, but you know what I'm saying. I'm gonna talk my normal talk. These Stihl 26s and 260s. This is a 260 filter. It's got a choke flap that sits in the carburetor, right? And you can kind of see it. There's not a good clear path for that air to get into that filter. And there's just not much room in there. I don't like that. I don't know that we can do any better, but we can try. And we can always have fun trying. Now this old 26 that I'm working on, it's got a modified carb on it already. It's bored 500, it's bored about 20 thousandths, 25 thousandths. It's 550 thousandths bore now. I bored at 675 thousandths on a different one and open up the high jet a little bit because we're probably running 2.5, almost 3 turns out on the high jet on this to get it rich enough to suit me. Now the carburetors don't have a choke flap in these, of course, because it's in the air filter. So putting a different carburetor on here is kind of a booger, to be honest about it. So I thought, well, why? I don't really want another carburetor. I just want a different choke flap. So I took the old hacksaw, literally what I done that with, cut that apart on a hacksaw, chucked that over in my parts bin. That may have something else in there we need later on. And of course I took the choke lever, and all that out, chucked this up in the mill and milled that off flat so it was a nice surface. And now that'll fit right on there. Now to be 100% honest, this hole here may be just a little bit smaller than the input here, just a smidgen. It wasn't before I modified it, but now it is. Now, I gotta get my spectaculars on here. Now, we tore up about 100 feet of fence, cattle fence out there. Cows are out running all over the neighbors because we tore up pieces of high tensile fence trying to make a throttle linkage that would work. Now, I don't know if you can see it. I ended up drilling a hole right here. You can't notice it unless I tell you about it probably, but there's a hole right here. And that takes this throttle linkage, if I remember right. Guys, it's been just a little bit since I worked on this. And that fishes through that little hole, and that gives us a fulcrum. I'm sorry if I get my head in your way. I think I must have her on there sep-eyed down, because it sure worked better than that before. I think we put the fulcrum in from the other way. That's what we done, ain't it? Guys, I just piddle on this as I get a chance, and Sundays is kind of the old Sunday fun day in the shop kind of business, and it's another Sunday. That leaves us with a problem of this is not very thick in between here and there, and it gets thinner up in here, and here's where your air cleaner sits. So it's not, it sits right up here in the top, so figuring out an air cleaner is somewhat of a problem. And yeah, it could suck in a little bit right there. I guess I could wrap that in black tape and help that out. I may just do that. That is real good stainless steel screen right there. And it's just held on there with, well, it's getting ready to be held on there with some Elect Chickens tape, and it's got a couple, and it's just prototype. That'll set right on there like that. And even we even got the stud on there, so we can mount us an air cleaner on there, or mount us our Purdy's, our back cover on there. Now bear in mind, that's just a proof of concept, and the choke linkage, while it works, is not something the guy'd want to take to the woods with him and rely on. It's not wanting to return quite all the way. But anybody that's ever made linkages knows what a booger that can be to make. So we're close, we're real close on the linkage, but I want to put it on dyno and see if we even gain any horsepower. No sense in fighting that if this proof of concept isn't going to concept out. We do have it. We do have it so that that'll all work though. So if a guy wanted to bring this to one of them race saw deals where a carburetor's got to work, or a choke's got to work for a work saw, I guess a guy could do something like that. I'm just playing anyhow. We like modifying stuff. And we'll probably put that one back on there, but let's see if we gained any horsepower. See if that's even worth, see if this is even worth pursuing. See if it'll start. Stihl 26 with carburetor choke. Oh, turn it on. Well, enough cookie cutting, time to make firewood. I was scrolling through the one ads on the Facebook Marketplace when this classified advertisement caught my eye. Said to mediate delivery of this odd-colored knockoff power saw with seller swap for good weed whacker. 13 bucks. Call anytime between noon and 2. Leave a message and ask for Bob. Well, I called Bob on the telephone. He said, "Hello, this is Bob speaking." I says, "This here Bob got the power saw up for sale?" He says, "Yeah." I says, "Where are you?" He says, 14 East on County 12. Turn right on the one-lane gravel road, and you can park in the yard. Beware the possum. Wipe your feet off, knock 3 times, and bring your billfold. Well, I tooled on East on County 12, turned right on the one-lane gravel road, and parked in the yard, and a big old possum come out and grabbed onto my neck. I knocked 3 times, wiped my feet. Possum let go, and the screen door opened. Bob come out and says, "What do you want?" Says, "Come see your saw." He says, "Follow me." Come on, Frank. The possum's name is Frank. Well, we all went past the outhouse, through the hog pen, down beside the woodshed, and wound up back of the barn a field of treetops. And sitting right there in a pile of bark was a blue Chinese Powersaw with a side cover sticker says Neotech with a homemade cobbled up muffler mod and a Ziploc bag full of rusty chains. And Bob says, "What do you think?" Well, I picked it up and rolled it over and the recoil fell right off on the ground. Found a bunch of field mice living in the air filter. He said her bar is bent and the seal's all leaked. She runs just fine most of the time. Use a bootlace starter, I broke the rope. Pay no attention to that slipping sound. She used a little oil, but outside of that, she's cherry. I said, "What do you take?" He said, "Well, you got it." I said $7.18. Says, "You got a deal, stay here. I'll go get some ether and a can full of mix." I wrapped the lace, give it a yank. She coughed and belched up a bunch of smoke, cut right through the picnic table and into a chair. Frank jumped up and bit my ear and I beat him off with a bar wrench. He climbed back down, the bar fell off and the chain broke right in two. I picked it up and fixed the chain and Frank tore a piece of my shirt off. Bob come out and called him off, said, "You better get on out of here." I went left on the one-lane gravel road, went 14 west on County 12, takes a quart of 40-weight oil for a gallon of gas just to get her to make compression. I headed straight for Sawfest parking lot and the King of the Wild thing come over to take a look. He said, "I've seen better stuff at a junkyard. Where'd you ever get that saw?" I said, "That's a long story, Mr. Cox. I was strolling through the want ads in the Facebook Marketplace when this classified advertisement caught my eye. It said take immediate delivery. This odd color knockoff power saw will sell a swap for a good weed whacker for $13. Call any old time from me and be with you." Okay, the green line's our new cylinder. We lost a little bit of horsepower over where we was at with the previous cylinder that was slightly scored, but I doubt our rings are seated in here yet. And while we're talking about rings seated in, I did not run these saws any to speak of between dyno runs, so there shouldn't have been much more ring breaking in. I minimized it the best I could to try to keep everything fair. I expect this saw will get stronger. But the new cylinder's the green line. Then the next thing we did was a timing advance. That's the blue line. And the last thing we did is we added the choke deal, and it was also still had the timing advance in it. So the new cylinder was at 4.48 horsepower at basically 10,150 RPMs and 2.82 foot-pounds of torque at pushing 5,900 RPMs, which is below where we was at on the previous cylinder, but I think we'll come up, like I say. So then we added the timing advance. Now we jumped up some horsepower. You'll see that we made it up to 4.74 horse, and we gained a couple hundred RPMs, a little over 200 RPMs at the peak, but we lost some up here on the high end, right? I really think that'd be noticeable, and it actually made the saw just a little bit peakier just doing the timing advance. It stretched out a little bit farther on those runs too. Then we added the choke. Now that's indicating as much as that stretched out down here out to 13,000 RPMs. We gained some horsepower there on out. We made pretty usable and pretty flat. Now with that choke, we actually lost a little bit of lower end torque, but we didn't drop below everything else till, let's say, 9,500 RPMs. So actually that choke thing is promising. It's not going to be on there for this winter's wood cutting because I don't have all the kinks out of it. We may revisit it again, or just chalk it up for knowledge of something we tried and it seems to have worked. We've actually put the saw back to where this blue line's at now, which is just a timing advance, and we're gonna run it till we get Dad's firewood cut, so it'll get quite a few tanks of gas through it up there, and we may throw her back on the dyno in the future, but right now I think we're gonna stick a fork in it. It's done.